Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rest. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking Time for Hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to the Time for Hemp broadcast at timeforhemp.com, Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, and of course, iHeartRadio. We are the only all-cannabis broadcasting network on iHeartRadio. And like a good joint, we are best when shared with friends. It is Thursday, and on Thursday we like to put a spotlight on policy, whether it be here in the United States, something going on in the voting booth, or new policy changes in governmental regulations around the world in regards to this wonderful plant known as cannabis sativa. On Thursdays, normally my joint host, Paul Stanford, and I like to have a chat with some of our joint friends here on the Big Joint broadcast. And don't forget that anytime you hear the word joint on Time for Hemp, nearly 2.5 million people all around the world pack their bongs, their pipes, their vaporizers, and twist up a joint to take Time for Hemp. Good morning, Paul.
Hey, Casper, how are you?
Pretty groovy today. We've got one of our joint family members on as a guest today. He also has a joint program on every Sunday. Every other Sunday it's the International Cannabis Hour, and then every other Sunday it's it's about history of hemp, and of course we're talking about Michael Krawitz. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Casper. Good morning, Paul. Good morning. And where are you at, Michael? I'm actually heading up to New York City for the United Nations meetings, and right now I'm driving through the heartland of Virginia. It's quite beautiful. The trees are just beginning to change colors. It's rained like a rainforest here all season, so it's a little bit of color.
What's going on in New York?
Oh, gosh, the United Nations are having some sort of a seizure, I think, trying to deal with the changes in our world. The drug summit is planned for 2016. That's a global drug summit, not unlike what we had back in 1998. In 2008, they changed it up a little bit, I think, to try to maybe slow us down. It didn't work. But in 2016, the countries in the world that have signed into international drug control treaties will once again sit down at a table and talk to each other and decide on the path and the future of the treaties. But they've already tried to lock it into kind of a process by which 2019 is their ultimate goal for any changes that will be made. But certainly now is the time to start talking about what the treaties need to do to stay fit to purpose in our modern world.
So when are they going to have, what's going on this weekend in New York? Is it this weekend or next week?
Yes, on Friday, I'm coming up to participate in a meeting that is being put together by the non-governmental organizations in New York City, the New York City NGO Committee, and the counterpart in Vienna, Austria, where the drug control program is housed, the NGO Committee from Vienna NGO Committee. And these two committees have now joined forces to present a panel on international policy and discussions around using the drug policies to deal with drugs in a health-based way instead of a punitive way. So this is really kind of a groundbreaking topic for us to start broaching the issues, at least maybe not directly, but peripherally, that the health-based approach versus a punitive or a jail everyone approach.
So is this just a meeting on Friday?
Yeah, Yes, well, the meetings at the United Nations are ongoing. This is part of the General Assembly of the United Nations in New York City. Like I said, the drug control program is housed in Vienna, and the head of the UN, the actual General Assembly, the overall top of the structure, is in New York City, and they're considering issues including drug policy, but they do it from a different perspective. What they're trying to decide is how and when to have the debate. And that's really what the debate is right now. That's President of the United Nations is how and where and how that debate will be structured and how far the discussions will go. South America has already made it very clear that they want to have some tax and regulation kind of discussion on the table, talking about how drug war policies are causing harm. Certainly Uruguay is pushing the envelope with their marijuana policy. We should see at least some discussion about the discussion starting to form. The UN moves so slowly that the meetings now are talking about what's going to happen 6 months, a year from now, and it's just kind of at a snail's pace.
I see. So are you just in New York for the day, or are you going to stay for a bit?
Actually, I'm just going up there for the day. The meetings are going to be inside and outside the UN. The first meeting that I'm attending is this roundtable that will be held on the periphery, again, of the General Assembly meetings. And we're going to have the Undersecretary of the UN presenting to us, and we're going to have Yuri Fedotov, the so-called drug czar, the head of the United Nations Office on Drug Control and Crime Prevention, present to us. And it's a very good opportunity, an initial opportunity. This is the first time that the NGO community will be coming together to present our ideas on what we want to see accomplished in this big drug summit in 2016. And then, more interesting, I think, to me, and maybe exciting from an activist perspective and a non-governmental organization perspective, is the next meeting in the afternoon, which will be outside the UN, which is the NGO committee itself. And we have now reinvigorated the non-governmental organization, or NGO committee of New York. Its membership includes some great organizations that you'll know very well. My organization, Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access, Drug Policy Alliance, Harm Reduction Coalition, Human Rights Watch, etc. And we've now created new leadership. We've recommitted the committee, and tomorrow we're going to be voting on a name change. We're going to be changing the name to the New York City NGO Committee on Drugs rather than the old name, which was the longer and then included some language about narcotics and the treaty.
I see. The reason I was inquiring is I'm flying to New York City, but not till Saturday morning. So I'll be there Saturday afternoon, so I'll just barely miss you.
Are you going to be, by any chance, going to the Horizons Conference?
No, we're looking at opening our clinics up and down the Eastern Seaboard.
Oh, well, that's fantastic.
For commercial purposes.
Excellent. Well, I'll still be in the area. So if you want to try to connect, I'll send you an email, and we'll try to connect. I'd love to see you.
I'll be in. I should be getting in at about, I think, 5 or 6 on Saturday evening.
Yeah, New York City is like a bag of potato chips. You can't just go for one day.
Yeah, that's true. Flying through.
But I'm very excited about this. The NGO committee, I want to say a couple words about it just generally, because I think that it's something that it's like an undiscovered country at this point for our groups, our reform community, and it needs to be on our radar. The reason why is because it's very hard to interact with the United Nations on your own. As a citizen, it's impossible. As a big NGO, it's hard. As a group of NGOs, it gets a little easier. So that's all we're doing, is trying to join together so that we can structure our communications with the UN and get on the UN's radar. But that platform is only good if you take advantage of it. We need all the marijuana organizations in the United States, all the marijuana organizations in South America and across the Americas, all the marijuana organizations worldwide to now step up, step forward, join up, and get on the dotted line. It doesn't mean you have to join any kind of ideology. I assure you, there's every kind of ideology approaching the United Nations. All this is a structured way for you to actually be able to present your information inside the United Nations, where it's been traditionally off limits to our reform message.
Well, I was under the impression that Kofi Annan and many members in the higher ranks of the UN were looking for ending this war on drugs and was wanting to see marijuana become a cash crop globally.
Yes, the Global Commission on Drug Policy, made up of like 7 former presidents and Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the United Nations. That's a very powerful voice, and it just goes to show you what a handful of people with very appropriate past careers can do, just by joining together and making some statements and working on some reports. And they've done some excellent reports, some great statements, and they even have a video out that's really neat, that's spreading across South America and around the world. That really goes to the kind of many-headed hydra of the drugs problem when you're trying to approach it as a legal issue.
Well, certainly then, doesn't that hold sway when it comes to making policy in the United Nations?
Basically, you have 2 things. You have, of course, the agreements that we've come to, and once you come to agreements, they kind of get caught up with other agreements, and it becomes kind of the status quo, and that becomes its own pressure that you have to undo. Gosh knows we've seen that in the United States. The biggest opponent is just the status quo. It just seems to defend itself. But having said that, you got all these countries, 190 or so countries, and each one has its own variables. Some of them are maybe very ready for reform, like maybe Uruguay, like maybe Spain or Portugal. And then you've got other countries that are way on the other side of the curve, like Singapore and China and unfortunately, France and Russia and Japan. So the United States finds itself, I think, right in between. And the actions that are occurring and that you're already been involved in the state level in Oregon right now, these things have very great weight in this process because the United States has been a driving force to promote these treaties and to promote the most punitive aspects of the treaties. If the United States is kept quiet by reforms inside the United States, worse yet, from their perspective, maybe we actually change the law in the United States, forcing our own reassessment of our own treaty obligations. This is all pressure from the other side. The United States, I think, is on the fence right now.
Well, it certainly is interesting to watch the world stage slowly change.
Yes, it's a slow process, but I'll tell you, I've been doing this for a while. I know Paul is you, Casper, make my work look like I just started yesterday, but I have been doing this for a long time, and in the time that I've been doing this, I've seen big concepts come, be accepted, and move on. And the UN right now, I think, is chewing on harm reduction. Harm reduction is kind of the concept that they're trying to get their brain around. It's already been adopted a decade ago throughout Europe. It's already the status quo in any reasonable policy anywhere in the world. It's time for the UN to implement that harm reduction. It's past time. If you look at it from that perspective, it makes kind of sense. But there's this kind of dynamic now that I think grassroots activists working in marijuana policy need to realize, and that is, if you don't step up to the plate, the harm reductionists can't speak for you. They have enough on their plate just trying to get naloxone and clean needles in people's hands. They don't have time to make the argument for, tax and regulate marijuana. They don't have time or the ability to make, and even make Human Rights Watch, who is working very hard on medicinal access issues around the world. They're working on issues like trying to get a country that hasn't put anything down on their sheet asking for narcotics for next year to put something down on the sheet so that the people that go to the hospital next year don't find out that they don't have any anesthetic for surgery. Those are the kind of problems that Human Rights Watch is dealing with. So again, they don't have time to deal with what are really kind of middle class, kind of Western problems of medical marijuana access and things like that. So we really have to step up to the plate for our issues to be heard. It's that time.
Well, I know, Paul, when you were across seas over in Europe, you dealt with a 4-country conference about it, Paul?
Yeah, I think Paul was out in Spain, I think it was. I saw the video, but I can't.
It was the Expo Grow. It's a conference, kind of like a trade show, the Expo Grow, a lot of different cannabis businesses, being the predominant business there, people selling various variety of cannabis seeds. And then it's a social conference put on by this foundation it's also a regular concert that happens and an outdoor recreation area. So it's a big conflagration right on the Spanish-French border on the Spanish side, because the laws in France are a lot more imposing, and so they can't really do it in France, but they do it in Spain right on the French border. So that's what I went to. It wasn't anything to deal really with policy. It was more of a trade show, academic conference, reggae show, all rolled into one.
I think these meetings are extremely important, because it helps connect the dots and help people get to know each other across this world. So it doesn't seem like we're so far away when we're working together on something like international policy.
Yeah, they asked me to come and speak about recommendations for Europe from an American perspective. Of course, I'm a long-time initiative activist, so I've spearheaded initiative politics going back to the early 1980s, and so I recommended that. In fact, the initiative in Navarra province, part of the Basque country in Spain, is going to the parliament today. And so the parliament is going to rule on this initiative. Then we're going to have a number of hearings coming up. I've been asked if I would be willing to come and speak at some of these hearings and talk about our experiences here in the United States. They said they were really inspired by our Oregon initiatives over there. And so I told them I definitely would be willing to do that. So we'll find out sometime later this week. But the Basque government, which is a semi-autonomous government, kind of like a state under our United States model, they announced yesterday that they're going to regulate these social clubs that have sprung up across Spain, but especially in the Basque country and in Catalonia, both of which have a pretty strong independence movement to separate from Spain.
That is so exciting. I don't know if I ever talked to you about this, Paul, but I came up with a concept years ago I called Anslinger's feedback loop. And what Harry Anslinger did, he took the first crazy headlines in the United States and he brought them to Europe, scared the heck out of Europeans who passed policies. He brought those European policies back to Congress and said, look, this is a worldwide problem. We need to do more. Then he took the new U.S. policies, brought them back, and further scared the Europeans to further do policy. And that kind of feedback loop has created and continued ever since. And what you're doing is most clearly negating that feedback loop. Finally, all these years later, you're helping to come back from the United States and say, no, that's the wrong message. Here's the right message. And this is what we're doing now. And I think that's finally turning off Anslinger's feedback loop.
Well, what I'm doing now, what I'm going to do now is pay the bills. We got to take a commercial break. And I encourage people who are listening to go to the websites of our sponsors and check out their services and their products and let them know that you heard about them here on Time for Hemp. You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
THCF Medical Clinics are the premier physicians clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is hemp.org.
Broken down, your belly aches, can't pay your rent. Listen to my song, smoke a little pot, drink a little wine. Everything will be just fine. Smoke a little pot, drink a little wine. Everything will be just fine. Take life by the hand. Time is short, let's live for a laugh. Imagine what we can be. Releasing fear from our reality. That's why I'm telling you to smoke a little pot, drink a little wine. Everything will be just fine. Smoke a little pot, drink a little wine. Everything will be just fine. Take life by the hand. Time is short, let's live for a laugh. Imagine what we can be. Releasing fear from our reality. That's why I'm telling you to smoke a little pot, drink a little wine. Everything will be just fine. Smoke a little pot, drink a little wine. Everything will be just fine if you smoke a little pot, drink a little wine. Everything will be just fine.
Oh, you know it will be fine when you're smoking kind. Trust me. That's how I was enjoying my break. I was taking time for hemp. And we are having a joint discussion today with two of the joint hosts here on the Big Broadcast. Both of them have their own shows here on the Big Broadcast. Michael Krawitz can be heard every Sunday morning here on the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network at 11 a.m., I believe it is, Pacific Standard Time. And, no, it's noon, high noon, isn't it, Michael?
Yes, yep, it's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time,
yes.
Noon your time in the West Coast.
So it's high noon, you can tune in. And Paul Stanford has a show every Friday night that we broadcast the audio of twice a week here on the big network. And I am the joint host of Cannabis Common Sense, and that is a program that's been around, I think, Paul, 17 years now? Paul?
It's 18 years, since 1996, so it's 18 years, actually this week.
Wow, my gosh. And that reminds me that I think 1 year ago this week, we started the official broadcasting network, Time for Hemp. And it was a fluke, nothing that I was looking to do. It just fell into my lap. And over the last 12 months, with the help of Sasha Goman and an amazing team of people who have come together to talk about the need to end prohibition, we have slowly but surely, week after week, grown into an amazing broadcasting network of over 40 hosts, giving you more than 65 hours a week of original broadcasting content. And we will continue to add new programming and new hosts over the course of the next 12 months. We have Mama Kind coming on to the network in another month or so from Canada, doing her own show. And John Sinclair, many of you are aware of what a legend he is. He'll be joining our broadcasting family soon. And we have other surprises up our sleeve. Well, anyway, I don't need to go on about how wonderful my network is, because I've got two fantastic hosts from the network that are having a great discussion now. And the best thing I can do is to have my lips quiet and wrapped around my pipe while these two gentlemen have a joint conversation for you to learn from.
Hey, unless you got somewhere you really want to go in this conversation, originally, Paul, I would suggest that we talk about the VA, because we got a new VA doctrine, a new VA policy that I'm trying to get the word out about.
All right, well, or maybe you don't. I'm a disabled vet. They paid my way through school with the Voc Rehab program, and tell me more.
Well, I just want to be very clear that veterans need to know, even though they may be experiencing issues and problems in the VA, they need to know if those problems are caused by a bad policy or if they're caused by a bad doctor or a bad employee of the VA. And the reason why they need to know that is because it informs your strategy on how you fight it. If the VA policy is at fault, then you need to go to Congress and all that rigmarole. But if it's just a bad actor, if it's just the policy isn't at fault, but actually the implementation of it, usually a well-written letter to the right person asking the right questions is enough to knock that out or nip it in the bud, as you might say. And what's going on is we passed a policy back in 2010 connected to pain management, allowing for veterans to use medical marijuana. It explicitly said that doctors at the VA couldn't recommend it, which is an interesting, another problem we could talk about. But it also said that veterans that were using marijuana under state programs should be left alone, and that there were actually constructive ways that the doctor should include that information in the medical file for statistical purposes. And in 2011, that policy was revisited and updated. Now, in 2014, we have negotiated with the Ethics Committee, I guess, sufficiently to help them understand our position. They represented us well, and they've come up with a new, it's not paid contract anymore. Now they call it a informed consent agreement. And when you go in and you're getting some sort of controlled medication, pain treatment, oxycodone, whatever, instead of making you sign an onerous punitive pain contract, now they're implementing this policy, which is more of a, like I said, more of an informed consent. The drug testing and stuff that's associated with it is being made very clear to the doctor that it's not to be punitive. So we do have a new VA policy passed in May 2014. It explicitly mentions medical marijuana, and that veterans are supposed to be able to use medical marijuana without fear of any drug testing policy at the VA hospital.
Well, that's good. I've run into a number of patients in our medical practice that, it depends on the doctor. Sometimes they say to the patient, hey, you can't do it, and sometimes they say we're going to catch you off from any other drugs, so there needs to be education of the doctors out there. And that's left up to the patients in a large number of cases, don't you think?
Unfortunately, that's very true. I think it's very important, for veterans to not pick a fight. In other words, don't try to educate the doctor if you don't need to. I always go for the need to know doctrine. Try to assess if the doctor really needs to know what you're about to tell him.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. Puts them on the spot.
Well, I was just going to say, they do need to know, enough to be able to treat you adequately.
Yeah, exactly. And the good thing is that none of the negative interactions with medical marijuana, that's something that patients and doctors need to know.
Absolutely. Of course,
Michael, you're breaking up again.
Just up in the Pinter region of Virginia.
Michael, you're breaking up again. We can't understand you. All right. Well, we'll call Michael right back. And in the meantime, Paul, why don't you fill us in on some of the events that you've been busy at? You just came back from a Midwest festival.
Yep, the Great Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest. That's the oldest pro-marijuana event in the United States. It's been going on for 44 years. This was the 44th annual one, going back to 1970, when the late, great Ben Mazzell got it going. And back in the late 80s and early 90s, the Madison, Wisconsin Great Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest was the biggest pro-marijuana rally in the country, attracting 15 to 20,000 people into the campus of University of Wisconsin and the Wisconsin State Capitol, which are only about a quarter of a mile apart down a road called State Street. And there's a march that takes place from the University of Wisconsin to the state capitol. There were about 1,500 participants in that this year, but there were a couple of incredible speakers. A representative named Melissa Sargent is in favor of full legalization of marijuana, and she announced in her speech that she is our champion and will fight for us until we achieve victory for the end of marijuana prohibition. And then another lady, Representative Chris Taylor, has been spearheading a medical marijuana bill that hasn't got very far, but they're hopefully going to get it farther through the Wisconsin legislative process in the next couple of months. But I went there, and local activists have formed what they call the Ben Mazzell Project, in honor of my old friend Ben Mazzell and his family there in Madison, Wisconsin. And so what they have done is they've had our clinic, THCF Medical Clinics, help numerous patients get medical marijuana permits. First, Ben Mazzell and Gary Stork and Jackie Rickard. First, it was Gary Stork and Jackie Rickard who flew out to Oregon for a few years and got a Oregon medical marijuana card, because back in 2009, the Oregon Supreme Court directed the Oregon Health Department to start issuing out-of-state residents medical marijuana permits. And so they have been doing that. Last year, we registered 9 people, and that includes Gary and Jackie renewing their recommendation. This year, there about a month and a half ago, there were a couple of cases where the police did not charge the patients who had medical marijuana, and that received some media coverage, the front page of the Madison, Wisconsin newspaper. And so there was a lot more interest, and we registered 48 new patients. Well, not new, but that includes the renewals. About 10 of them were renewals, and the others were new patients. But so we signed up 48 patients for Oregon's medical marijuana program, and each of them have to pay $200 to the state of Oregon to get that permit. So literally I brought in almost $10,000 to the Oregon Health Authority in my trip to Madison, Wisconsin. And about half of that in terms of people paying a fee for us to be able to have our doctor do this. And so that was the Great Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest.
Well, I'll tell you, they've come a long way. There's been some years when the police turned out to do arrests. There's been years when it turned out to be a huge event with a lot of success. And I guess a lot of it also has to depend on who's the mayor at the time and what the county council's thinking, kind of like Oregon, huh?
Well, there were a couple of people who dropped the ball in getting their permits for the event in Madison, Wisconsin. And, you know, in most communities, that would be the end of it. But the police chief of Madison contacted the local organizer, Dennis Britton, and he arranged for the march to take place. And there was a police escort down State Street for those 1,500 marchers who weren't able to get the permit, but with the police chief's help, and the police chief has publicly said he's in favor of marijuana legalization as well. But with this police chief's help, the show went on.
Wow, we have come a long way.
That's true. I remember back, well, you know, for me, this was my 25th anniversary since I first spoke at the Great Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest back in 1989 and 90. And back then, I remember the police were arresting many people involved with the event. So it was good to see the police support for a change.
Absolutely. Well, talking about support, we got to take care of the support that we've got here by paying our bills. Please make it a point to let our sponsors know that you heard about them here, not only on the big broadcast, but on the big broadcasting network called Time for Hemp. You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
Serious Seeds is your source for quality cannabis and sativa seeds. Serious Seeds are the creators of legendary strains like AK-47, Bubblegum, Chronic, Cali Mist, and White Russian. The AK-47 is probably the most awarded strain on the planet. The high THC content of AK-47 makes it the perfect medical strain for patients seeking quick pain relief. Cali Mist is an almost pure sativa. Female medical cannabis patients have reported that this strain helps relieve menstrual cramps. Serious Seeds just acquired another Dutch high-quality seed bank, Magus Genetics. From now on, Serious Seeds can offer you even more award-winning strains. The fine folks at Serious Seeds strive to breed the best cannabis genetics that they can find, so patients can rely on the effectiveness of their medicine. Go to SeriousSeeds.com to grow your medicine. That site again is SeriousSeeds.com.
Well, the Western had a bowl, good green reefer, big fat Jones beef, much, much sweeter. Mighty don't hide it. Mighty don't hide it. Just mighty don't hide it. Mighty don't hide it. Well, I don't hide it. Fire up right now.
Yeah, baby, please do fire up right now. Help the DEA destroy marijuana in America. Pack it into your vaporizers and into your pipes and burn that stuff constantly. Constantly keep it burning and do what you can to help eliminate marijuana here in the United States. Right, Paul?
Yeah, I guess I am dedicated to destroying as much marijuana as I can in my vaporizer to get it out of the public supply chain. I'm trying to get as much out of the public supply chain as I can.
And for those of you who've been listening, you know that before we went to commercial break, we lost Michael Krawitz. Well, gosh, we found him again. And I'm going to let my joint host and our joint guests get back to their joint conversation while I get back to my joint here at Time for Hemp.
Sorry about that, guys. Sometimes you can multitask, but it's only up to the network, and it wasn't assisted me there. So I was just in the middle of talking about how I think it's really important that veterans out there understand that although they may be experiencing a problem. Same thing for patients out in your clinics, anywhere in the medical system in the United States. It's important for them to know if that problem is coming from policy or if it's just coming from a bad actor, from someone, as I say, that thinks they're more of a cop than they are a doctor on the day that you went into their office. You always have those issues, but we have the policy on our side, at least with medical marijuana. The VA, a little tiny part of the federal government, has acknowledged that veterans are using marijuana under doctor's orders, that it's legitimate, and that it should be seen as a something other than a failed drug test inside the VA system.
Right. So what is it, or what's the distinction in this new policy that they changed this year, Michael?
Yes, it's Directive 1005 is where you'll actually find all this information. But there's a handbook associated with it, and it's the handbook for responsible use of opiates. It's a medical handbook that's being given out inside the VA to both patients and caregivers. And inside that handbook, it specifically talks about the reasons why they're having this policy and how if you're using long-term, heavy-duty controlled medications, that, according to the FDA, makes it absolutely mandatory that you have this kind of informed consent on file. It's just a matter of training, really mostly, I think, liability, that you can understand the risks and benefits because you are taking this long-term, and the FDA has deemed that to be a risky endeavor. And while they're doing that, they have carved out room for medical marijuana. But the whole policy in general, it's very clear when you read it from beginning to end that it is a new way of approaching this. It's not punitive. The ethics committee is telling me that veterans should feel free to not take the drug test. They should feel free to turn it down and not have any punitive action taken against them. So this is kind of a new thing inside the VA system. It's only come out in May, and the VA is a rather huge animal, so you won't see it throughout the entire VA immediately. But by now, it should be spreading pretty well throughout the VA system.
Paul, is your mic not on? Paul, did we drop Paul?
I'm not sure. He might be multitasking and not getting the support of his network. I do feel him from time to time. Like,
I'm back.
Oh, there we are.
The business call I jumped over to for about 20 seconds, but it must have been right when you asked for me that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
Well, it's interesting to watch the Veterans Administration finally slowly grow. They are a fundamental aspect of the care that many members of the military receive once they leave the military. A lot of them go into low-wage jobs, and to get good medical care for them is not easy. And they rely on the Veterans Administration in so many ways, and then the older they get, the more of a need they have for the Veterans Administration. So it's very important that at this point in time that the Veterans Administration recognize that medical marijuana is now coming to America, and it would behoove them to get their policy in place.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize the role that the VA plays in the overall scheme of things in our country as well. Our country, as a whole, relies on the Veterans Affairs Department to do a lot of research. A lot of the cutting-edge medical research is done at VA hospitals with veterans, on veterans. And some of the latest steps that we've heard, like the Journal of the American Medical Association release about overdose deaths dropping in conjunction with well-implemented medical marijuana laws, that is as a result of the VA's interest. So I think that the VA can be seen as part of the federal government that's trying to digest this information, while the DEA is over there playing I hear no evil, I see no evil, I speak no evil. The VA has to deal day-to-day with medical issues of veterans. They have the mandate of health. health care, and I think it's just an appropriate place for the federal government. One place of many where they should be trying to digest this information.
Well, we are getting down to the last few minutes of the big broadcast, so this gives us a chance to give a shout-out to any URLs that or organizations you want to put a spotlight on. We'll start with our joint guest today, Michael Krawitz. Michael?
Well, thanks so much for having me on. I'm sorry about the technical issues. You can find Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access on the web, but also easily on Facebook, Facebook/USA.VMCA, Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access. And I'll be trying to do some reporting from the United Nations. I might not get it right into can, so it might be a week delay, but I'm going to get some more reporting in for the next couple of shows about what's going on here at the United Nations. So stay tuned.
And Paul, you and I are broadcasting a television show every Friday night that you started 18 years ago, and I am fortunate enough to be a joint host on. Why don't you let people know how they can find that and some of your URLs?
Well, you can find it on Ustream.tv. Just look up Cannabis Common Sense. I think it's Ustream.tv/channel/Cannabis Common Sense with hyphens between the words there. So, or you can see hundreds of shows live early on YouTube and through our own website at hemp.org. That's the portal to all our sites. That is hemp.org.
And I do want to remind people that we are a broadcasting network, and you can tune in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we either have great music that you can listen to or great conversational programs that are informative that you can share with your friends. All programs of our hosts can be found on their archives page. All you need to do is go to timeforhemp.com, and all of the programming that has been produced by this group of people can be found and downloaded for free so you can share with your friends and let everybody know all around the world how important it is to take time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. Take another look and spend some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yes, it's time for him. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 bales of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, time for help! Yeah!
Everything you've ever done to me, you took away my weed, and I can't forgive. And you think that you will control me, keep what's bad from me, yeah, you're such a fool. And I will find my own way, I will stay here every day, inside of my sativa sanctuary, my sativa sanctuary, in my mind, in my mind, yeah. Everything you've ever learned from me, still I wonder why they all believe. But they can't stifle me. I'm gonna tell the truth, yeah, truth about you. And I will find my own way. I will stay here every day, yeah, inside of my sativa sanctuary,
my sativa sanctuary. In my mind, in my mind, yeah, yeah. Big brother knows the truth. He tries to hide it from you. Come on and know the truth. They denied the sacred medicine. They created the worst sin against humanity. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Nothing but that potent shit, cause I'm getting chippers. Used to rock stress, now you ain't fucking with seeds. Get your hot chest, the blunt rip from stems to the weed. Give me that purple or that Afghani. Matter of fact, I need that kush, fuck, goddamn me. These niggas smoking on that Sisterberry. And I'm like, Sisterberry? Nowadays we got more names in the dictionary. Orange Crush, Train Wreck, and White Rhino. Stay frosty, way white like albinos. We intertwine those to mix them up a little crazy. Man, I'm higher than Snoop Dogg. Even the bitches be high, the dro get them open. They rollin', puffin', coughing, choking, and still smoking. I'm hoping that the weed man keep his money right so I can run through, get high. Ever I want it like, yeah.
Green hydroponically. If you wanna smoke, you gotta smoke like me.
Yes, we're smoking trees.
Sticky high, I'm so high, that's no lie.
Hydroponically.
You got the chronic, you got the purpose and chocolate tie. Now I can smoke with you if you want to. You want to. I got hydroponic green. I roll it on up, keep my eyes on red beam. Call me Thurgood, the way I keep smoking, choking. Look at my eyes, are they open? Moving slow motion off this purple weed. Put the yak back, give me agua. Cottonmouth munchies, all the side effects. Bloods, bones, and zags, all her best assets. Most hit it and grab quarters and zip. From the way I yell, you know how I get. Mary, Mary, keep a bush so sneaky and heavy. With the smoke you give up to this girl I stay married. Now if you hear your boy Good Trees is in your town, grab your skins and your lighter, it's about to go down.
Smoking trees, hydroponically.
If you wanna smoke, you gotta smoke like me.
Yes, we're smoking trees.
I'm so high to the day I die.
Hydroponically.
I can take it in the phone, I take it in the sad, I'm gonna get by.
I'm cool like that. I'm smooth like that. Off that sticky icky into what it do like that. Because I'm laid back. Keep the way I ride the track. After a hard day's stripping, you know it's Susan, man. Ain't no pep in my step, I got the gift of gab. I don't skip, hop, or dance, catch a bitch with a glance. She like that real shit, cause that's a real bitch. Roll a nigga blunts, break the cash, sucks my dick. Since city living sure been good to me. I like to burn some purple haze while I roll the streets. Lady Luck and Mary Jane, greenbacks and leaves. Because I'm all about this hustle, so they stay with me. I like to blaze Garcia Vegas every day. I think it's crazy.
It's cool though,
but we can flip the script and smoke up spliff trees.
Green, rolling hydroponically. If you wanna smoke, you gotta smoke like me.
Yes, we're smoking trees.
I'm so high till I die, and that's no lie.
Hydroponically.
You got that skunk, you got that crunk, you got that tie. I can smoke with you if you want to, you want to. But will you smoke with me if you want to, you want to? I can smoke with you if you want to, you want to. Will you smoke with me?
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network, the only broadcasting network dedicated to ending the global war on drugs on iHeartRadio. Please share us with your friends.